call this meeting of the Privileges and Elections Committee to order. You want to call the roll?
Yes.
Clerk will close the roll. We have a quorum.
That's fine.
We have 2 bills before the full committee, and then we have subcommittee number 1 and subcommittee number 2. We will go ahead and we'll do the 2 bills that are before full. We have 2324, Delegate Cardoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 2324 simply requires the State Board of Elections to propagate standards and instructions for recounts involving more than 2 candidates, such as city councils that have upwards of 5+ candidates. It will direct them to establish clear regulations on how those recounts will be handled. And it has no fiscal impact.
Okay. Any committee members have a question of Delegate Cardoza? Delegate Simons.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if this would apply to state-level elections.
It would apply to any, Mr. Chair, I'll answer the delegate, that it would apply to any elections that have more than 2 candidates, and there's a recount called for.
Council. Meg.
Mr. Chair, I think this bill also provides for when we have a circumstance in which more than 1 candidate can be elected to the office. So for a city council where there might be 5 seats, it will have recount standards for how we would handle, if someone wants to file the petition, who are the candidates they actually have to list in the petition? Is it just the person they're closest to in the percent margin, or will it be all of the candidates who did win? It's not clear by code, and so we had a question come up because different localities are interpreting, how to do the recount differently. So this will uniform everything.
All right. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this bill? Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Chris Marston. I'm a member of the bar and an election law practitioner. I had the misfortune of trying the last recount with a multiple winner election. This has occurred 4 times to my knowledge, and different recount courts have applied different standards as to who has to be served with a petition, whether it's just 1 candidate ahead of you or all the candidates ahead of you, and who's actually a party to the recount and entitled under the statute to pick election officials or recount officials rather. There's probably 4 or 5 areas where the statute is just clearly designed for a recount in a single winner race with only 2 parties, and it's just very difficult, and courts have had a challenge applying it to situations where there's an at-large election and there's more than 1 winner in a race. So I would encourage you, in the interest of uniformity and clear standards, so that as any of you who've been through a recount know, it can be stressful and expensive. So the clearer the standards are up front, the better it is for all the parties involved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone here in the room wish to speak in opposition? I think we have 1 person online who wishes to speak. So I think the internet has gone out here in the Capitol. So if you're trying to, if you're here in the room and trying to read the bill, you can't get access, and I think that's going to prevent us for the moment from being able to take any online testimony. But are there any further questions of Delegate Cardoza?
Mr. Chairman, over here to your.
And if you use your light, I can or speak light, I can actually see it here on the screen. Oh, never mind. Being told that internet affects that too. Delegate Krizik.
Luckily, the mic still works. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to know, I was actually years ago involved in the Wilder recount. I was one of the officials that went through we were in the hotel. I actually enjoyed that event. We had tables throughout the ballroom, and on each table you had a Democrat and a Republican, and we stayed there all day, and they brought the boxes, and we just went through them, and we decided, ballot by ballot. In those days, there were a lot of paper ballots. I was just wondering if you could tell me what kind of problems that recounts have had recently that this bill is needed.
And I think we may be able to actually hear our witness who's online. So Shelley Oberlander, are you there? If you can unmute and see if we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I'm actually don't have an opinion on this bill, and at this point, I would support Chris Marston's comments, who spoke that it would be beneficial to pass the bill to make it easier for this process to occur. So I will concur in favor, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I don't see any further questions. Committee operates by motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Delegate
just wondering
Krizek.
if somebody could answer that question, if the patron.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Oberland, I think Mr. Marston might have been able to address that, actually. I sort of thought he did in his testimony, but
It wasn't to my satisfaction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the most recent example, it was a 6-winner election for the Fairfax City Council. The 7th place finisher was about 13 votes behind the 6th place finisher. She filed a recount petition, and it was dismissed because she only named the 6th place finisher and not the other 5 who were much further ahead. So they weren't served with a copy of the petition and made parties to the recount. In Virginia Beach, in a at-large city council election involving Senator Rouse in, I believe it was 2019, it was a top 2 finishers. The 3rd place finisher was about 20 votes behind the 2nd place finisher. In that case, the petition only named the 2nd place petitioner, and the court proceeded with the recount. So it was a different standard for whether or not a candidate could be involved. In 2016, there was another Fairfax City Council at-large recount, and there was a challenge in determining of the 7 candidates that were parties to the recount, who should select the recount officials. The statute provides that the petitioner and the respondent select those recount officials, and if you have 7 respondents, it's difficult to tell who would do that. So there's a number of issues that the statutory construction creates that standards by the board would help resolve, both in who can bring a recount and how they bring it, as well as how it's administered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That answers the question. That was very good. Thanks.
Delegate Converse Fowler.
Mr. Chair, I had a follow-up question based on the testimony provided. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You mentioned Virginia Beach and the recount election there. So, and just knowing that the margin between there was 2 seats, and the 3rd seat was the one that was contested. For the 2nd seat, the one that came second. So my question would be, if the margin is so big, does this bill cover that already, where you wouldn't need the first candidate involved? They have already won by significant margin, or does this mean everyone is involved or is required to be involved at that point?
So the bill doesn't cover that requirement. It leaves it to the state board to adopt a regulation to resolve that issue. The challenge we have right now is there's a lack of clarity about what the correct answer is. I have a personal preference that people who are way ahead not have to hire a lawyer and get involved in a recount. But the thing that's the most important is that there be a uniform standard. So whichever way the question is resolved, everyone knows what it is ahead of time and can apply it appropriately.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
move
for
to
the
report.
delegate? Motion made, properly seconded to report House Bill 2324. We're going to attempt it online. We'll see. We may have to call the roll. No, it's not showing up. All right, we'll call the roll.
Delegate Ranson?
Ranson votes yes.
Ranson votes yes. Delegate O'Quinn?
Yes.
O'Quinn votes yes. Delegate Adams?
Yes.
Adams votes yes. Delegate Leftwich?
Yes.
Leftwich votes yes. Delegate Head?
Yes.
Head votes yes. Delegate McGuire?
Yes.
Delegate McGuire votes yes. Delegate Bloxham?
Yes.
Delegate Bloxham votes yes. Delegate Williams?
Yes.
Delegate Williams votes yes. Delegate Taylor?
Yes.
Delegate Taylor votes yes. Delegate Scott?
Yes.
Delegate Scott votes yes. Delegate Waxman.
Yes.
Delegate Waxman votes yes. Delegate Campbell. Yes. Delegate Campbell votes yes. Delegate Sickles.
Yes.
Delegate Sickles votes yes. Delegate Van Valkenburg.
Yes.
Delegate Van Valkenburg votes yes. Delegate Converse Fowler.
Yes.
Delegate Converse Fowler votes yes. Delegate Krizek.
Yes.
Delegate Krizek votes yes. Delegate Adams.
Yes.
Delegate Adams votes yes. Delegate Reed.
Yes.
Delegate Reed votes yes. Delegate Simons.
Yes.
Delegate Simons votes yes. Delegate Munden King. Delegate Maldonado.
Yes.
Delegate Maldonado votes yes. Delegate Glass. Delegate Glass votes yes. That completes the roll. 21-0.
All right. House Bill 2324 reports by a vote of 21-0. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee.
Next bill on the docket, House Bill 2471, Delegate Batten.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have before you House Bill 2471. This is a bipartisan initiative, and there will be a Senate companion coming over from Senator Mason. This bill provides for the removal of a local registrar by the circuit court upon petition signed by the majority of electoral board members. Currently, local electoral boards may remove a registrar with a simple majority. This bill also requires the Virginia Division of Risk Management to assign counsel to defend registrars who are subject to a petition for removal. This is already the practice for electoral board members who are subject to a petition for removal. Currently, registrars who wish to defend themselves during the process must retain their own attorney. The current policy or the current code can allow for abrupt departures and disruption in close proximity to elections. This bill will add stability to registrars' offices and to the oversight of elections. I'm happy to take questions from the committee, and I believe there's at least one person here to speak on the bill.
All right. Do we have any questions of Delegate Batten right now? All right. Anyone here in the room wish to speak in favor? Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. David Bailey on behalf of the Voter Registrars Association of Virginia, and we greatly appreciate Delegate Batten and Senator Mason for introducing the bill. I think most of all of you have seen and hopefully read some testimony that was sent by Allison Robbins, and she will be in the Zoom in case you need some technical questions answered. But the ending part of what she wrote, I'd like to read to you. The integrity of Virginia elections depends on the nonpartisan administration of elections. This common sense bill ensures that political influence is removed from the office of the General Registrar and local electoral boards. We encourage your support of the bill.
Thank you. Delegate Van Valkenburg. David, I think he might have a question for you.
Yeah, can you, Mr. Chair, and maybe this is for Allison, but so I don't know, but can you explain how that does that? How this depoliticizes the process? Because I'm always a little skeptical of saying when we take something to the state level, we're depoliticizing the process. Because oftentimes what we're doing is we're actually making it more political. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
I think if you look at the bill, and we can see what number it is, on line 78, when it talks about the local electoral board may be removed by circuit court process, the bill, I'm trying to see the lines, it does the same for registrars. It sets up a uniform process for the removal of electoral board and a registrar. Currently, with obviously you all know that there's a 2-1 ratio always determined by the election of the governor, and so electoral boards change and are by their very nature political appointees. The registrar seeks to be and works to be nonpartisan, and I think that this sets up a uniform way that it goes through the circuit court, where there would be attorney provided, and helps make it in that sense clearly nonpartisan. Not that registrars don't need to be removed from time to time, but it sets up a process for the removal that seems very fair.
Follow up?
Maybe
I'm misreading it. So, and maybe so this says that rather than just the this says basic as I'm reading it, it says, right, essentially what we have now is a local electoral board can directly remove the registrar. The state board can kind of indirectly do it by either asking the local board to do it, and then if they don't, by sending it to the circuit court, right? That's the current process. And then this process would just say that the local the local board could do it, but now the state board of elections could directly do it too. Am I misreading that?
The legislation states that now currently your registrar can be just removed by a majority of your electoral board, which obviously leads to, potentially could lead to partisan swings back and forth in the appointment of the registrar. This would just set up sort of another process by which the electoral board can't directly remove the registrar. They actually have to petition the court to remove the registrar, which is the process right now for electoral board members. So if you're trying to get rid of your electoral board member, you have to go to the court. The board members can, change out their registrar at will.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Sickles.
But on line 100, it says, upon a petition signed by a majority members of the state board, as provided in 24.2, which I don't have. I don't know what that means, but it looks like if the local, is it true that if the local electoral board is not functioning or is not removing a registrar, if there's any controversy, it could be kicked up to the state board? Is that am I reading that wrong?
That's currently the code. So if you look at lines 95 through 97, which are stricken and then just replaced by the subsequent language, that's currently what's in the code.
Okay. So, Mr.
So we're not changing anything in that regard.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's always a couple ways you can let go a registrar. One, the local board can do it, or today even the state board can do it because a local board's not doing it and the state board thinks that the person ought to be removed. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's my understanding. I'll defer to counsel.
Yeah.
The local electoral board can make that decision, but then there's a mechanism for the state as well to do it right now.
Correct, Mr. Chairman, Delegate Sickles. So right now, if the State Board of Elections thinks that a general registrar should be removed from office, they can essentially ask the local electoral board to do that. If the local electoral board doesn't do it, then the state board can initiate the removal proceedings through the court by filing a petition. So this keeps that capability, but it also then says that the local electoral board, instead of just being able to remove a general registrar, they have to go through the petition process, initiating the proceeding to remove.
So it's like the statewide process. I'm sorry. I'm done.
So follow up.
Delegate Valkenburg.
So this essentially just says everybody has to go through the circuit court to get rid of a registrar?
Correct.
Okay. Now I'm good.
Okay. Any further questions right now? Is there anyone here in the room that wishes to speak in opposition? I know, David, you referenced Allison Robbins. I see her online. Allison, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Allison Robbins. I'm the General Registrar, and I'm with the Voter Registrars Association. Just to clarify, we feel like that this legislation just adds due process into the circumstances when registrars need to be removed, or when electoral boards or the state board have concerns about the conduct of the registrar. And we appreciate the consideration of the committee. Thank you.
All right. Delegate Batten, you have anything you'd like to add?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Been a motion made, properly seconded, to report House Bill 2471. Members wishing to vote on the voting board.
Oh, wow. How did you know it was back on?
Delegate Ranson.
Ranson votes yes.
Mr. Chair,
Delegate Head.
I vote yes. My board is telling me there was a problem. Please vote.
It says you voted though.
Delegate Simons, do you wish to vote?
No.
No.
Do you vote aye?
Just touch.
All right, clerk will close the roll. House Bill 2471 reports by a vote of 21-0. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, we will move into subcommittee number 1 report. Delegate Head.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We heard several bills, have 2 to report for you this morning. Our first is House Bill 1444, brought to us by Delegate Ware. This restores the requirement for photo ID in in voting for identification at the election. Also, availability of absentee voting in person. So we just basically reestablishes photo ID, and was reported by the subcommittee on a vote of 6-4, and I would so move.
Delegate Head, did that have a substitute?
It did have a substitute. I'm so sorry.
So your motion is
to report the substitute,
substitute.
6-4. That was the motion from the subcommittee.
Okay. There's been a motion made, properly seconded, to recommend reporting House Bill 1444. Does anyone wish to speak to that motion? All right. Members wishing to vote, vote on the voting board. Delegate Ranson?
Ranson votes yes.
Mr. Chair, I'm getting the same message. I vote yes.
Delegate Head? Delegate Simons?
I vote nay.
All right, clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1444 reports by a vote of 12-10. Delegate Head.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next is House Bill 2234 from Delegate Waxman. This is for voter registration, registering in person, up to and including the day of the election. It provides that only members of a uniformed service as defined in relevant law and persons who are residing temporarily outside the United States and spouses or dependents of such members or persons are entitled to register to vote after the close of registration records in person and up to and including the day of the election. Under certain law, any person who is qualified to register to vote is entitled to register to vote after the close of registration records up to and including the day of the election. Subcommittee recommended reporting on a vote of 6-4, and I would so move.
All right. There's been a motion made, properly seconded, to report House Bill 2234.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Sickles, speaking to that motion.
Yeah, speaking to the motion.
Yes, sir.
This bill, in essence, ends same-day voter registration. Is that what it does?
Yes.
Just want everyone in the audience and over the Commonwealth to know that's what this does. Is that right?
Mr. Chair, that would be correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All right. Clerk will open the roll. Members wishing to vote, vote on the voting board. Delegate Ranson?
And, Mr. Chair, I'm also still having the same problem, but I vote yes.
I think we might have lost Delegate Ranson as well. And Delegate Simons? Okay.
Can she speak? There she is. She just needs to unmute.
Delegate
Ranson
Ranson.
votes yes.
Okay, we got you. Thank you. Clerk will close the roll. House Bill 2234 reports by a vote of 12-10.
And, Mr. Chair, that completes my report.
Thank you, Delegate Head. We'll move into subcommittee report number 2, which I will actually be doing. The first bill we had, actually both bills were from Delegate Bloxham, House Bill 1947, which eliminates the permanent absentee voter list and provides for an annual absentee voter list by which any eligible voter who annually files that application and is enrolled receives their absentee ballot for any election that they're eligible to vote in for the ensuing calendar year. This bill, or the subcommittee recommended reporting this bill by a vote of 5-3, and I so move. There's been a motion made, properly seconded, to report House Bill 1947. Does anyone wish to speak to that motion? All right, members wishing to vote, vote on the voting board. Delegate Ranson.
Ranson votes yes.
Delegate Simons.
Delegate Simons votes nay.
Clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1947 reports 1210. Next bill from subcommittee number 2 is House Bill 1948, also from Delegate Bloxham, which removes the witness requirement for absentee ballots and replaces it with the requirement that the voter provide the last 4 digits of their Social Security number and their date of birth. The subcommittee recommended reporting 8-0, and I so move. With substitute.
I think we'll need to adopt the substitute. 'Cause it was
Okay. All right. That's right. Subcommittee can't adopt a substitute. All right. So the substitute should be online and before you. So can I get a motion on that substitute? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Substitute is before us, and that is what the subcommittee recommended, reporting 8-0, and I renew my motion. Motion made, properly seconded to report House Bill 1948. Does anyone wish to speak to that motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Adams.
The substitute, I haven't quite had a chance to look over it. Does that reflect a removal of the witness signature and the replacement of the identifying information, as you stated, the Social Security number and date of birth?
Delegate Bloxham.
It is supposed to. The substitute was adding about the 343 registered voters in Virginia that do not have a Social Security number, but they do have a voter ID number. So this would allow them to vote absentee and give information that the registrar can check. Is what it's supposed to do.
Mr. Chairman, follow up.
Delegate Adams.
Was there any discussion in the subcommittee about requiring this information in addition to a witness signature, and what was the reasoning behind removing the witness signature?
Delegate Bloxham.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The basic reasoning is that is information that a registrar cannot check. There's no signature verification that Virginia has on file. The witness could actually be a witness from another state. The registrar has no way of checking that information. This is brought forward to make sure they have verifiable information to prove that the voter is a registered voter in Virginia.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion that we have? All right. Members wishing to vote on the voting board. Delegate Ranson.
Ranson votes yes.
All right. Clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1948 reports by a vote of 22-0. That is the last bill on the docket, and being no further business, committee will rise.